Alrighty, good morning slash afternoonish to everybody joining us today. My name is Derek Malone here at the Model Schools program, and today we are going to be doing a presentation on Google Sites as an assessment tool with Carl Manganaro. But before we get to that, just a couple quick announcements. As always, if it's your first time here, be sure to say hi in the chat just so we get your names for attendance. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. That way, anytime we put up one of these webinars, whether or not you miss it in my learning plan, you'll get a notification letting you know that we're going live. And be on the lookout. We should be releasing a schedule hopefully at some point tomorrow into my learning plan for next week's webinars, so keep an eye out for that. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. Myself, Chris Schaefer, and Carl Manganaro will be there to address any questions that you have. And with that, we are going to transition over to our presentation for today.
Hello, my name is Carl Manganaro, and welcome to the Morick webinar series that we're putting together. Today I'm going to talk about, and if you've been on a couple with me already, you should be no surprise that we're going to talk about Google Sites again. Now, this is the third in the series on Google Sites, and you're probably saying, how much more can you do with Google Sites? Well, that's the nice thing about Google Sites is there's a lot of different things you can do. The first video we talked about just how to use Google Sites. The second one used it as a communication tool. And for this one, we're going to talk about how you can use it for assessment. One of the issues that I've heard is it's hard to assess students because if you did send them a test through Classroom, they can take the test and use whatever resource they want. So to get a true assessment, it's hard during this time. It's a lot easier when they're sitting in front of you in a class and you can watch every one of them. So this is just a couple of ideas that possibly you could use during the course of this remote learning if you want to assess them and get information out of them. What we're going to talk about today is using Google Sites as portfolios, also using Google Sites for research papers. We're going to talk about using videos in Google Sites to kind of in the same way that you would use Flipgrid. Since Flipgrid is non-compliant right now, this might be a better way for you to go. And finally, we're going to even get into how possibly you can do forms this way and make it possibly a little bit easier for you giving this child the forms. But before we get into that, since the last webinar we had, there's a new development, which with Google, it happens all the time. If you notice on my screen, I have something that some of you might have and some of you might not have. And what these are templates. And this is new. It just popped up the other day when I was on it. And in my other Google Suite account, it's not on there yet. So you might have it, you might not have it. But if you don't, it'll be there soon. And what templates does for you, it gives you templates that when your students come in, it might make it a little easier. Because the hardest part of making a Google site is you start on a blank page and it's like, where do I go now? You could make a template if you wanted and just share it with all your kids as well. But to save you time, they've done it for you. So if you wanted to go to any one of these, so for example, if you're thinking of yourself, maybe I want to have a Google site for my class. It allows you to come in and you can fix all you want, put your name on, you can change the picture. You can put a class overview with your own photos if you want. All right. It's got an About Me page. All of this can be changed, but it just kind of gives you a template on and gives you ideas of some things that you can put on here. They already have links in here already set for you. Down below, the footer is all there. They have other pages as well, including your schedule, where you can just embed your Google Calendar right in here. And your daily schedule, your class periods, things you have. all on there. And even if you thought about a class newsletter you want to do to parents every once in a while, this is available as well. So it is a little bit of a time saver if you're one that comes in and you're kind of overwhelmed with how to make it look and how to make it, what feel you want to it. And again, if you don't like this theme, it's very easy to change. Where I like it a little bit more is the kids side. Now this basically will become the kids' portfolio for the year. How they have this set up is basically it's an About Me website that the kids can use either for what they've done in your class, what they've done in all classes, or possibly even something they might want to use as a link when they're applying to colleges as well. Because it does allow them and does give them some information and where to put, what their achievements are, their skills they're working on. And it also gives them other things in here as well on the side to their classes that they have. So they would explain what all they're doing in certain classes in geometry or whatever math they're taking at this time. It also has a list of things I do. I do robotics. I'm in band. You can put in if you're into athletics or student council or whatever you're doing. This can become their set. So it's a nice template setup. They can change it all they want, but at least they have a starting point, and it might make it a little bit easier for students once they start with this. So that's the announcement. When I saw this, I was like, well, I have to at least add this since I've done 2 already, and all of a sudden, you guys go into it and you see this, you're like, hey, you never said that? Well, here it is. It will be coming soon to you. You just have to wait. They update it all the time, and it eventually will be there for you. Now, what we're going to talk about today now is assessments with using Google Slides. And the first thing we're going to talk about is project-based learning. As you know, project-based learning, a wide variety of things you could use. And it's not like Google Slides is going to be, it's not like Google Sites is going to be everything that you have for your portfolio or your assessment, but it's going to be the holder of all of it. And it just makes it a little bit more organized if you can go to one kid's site and see all their work there if they have a lot that they turned in. So if you give a Google Slides presentation as an assignment, they do the Google Slide. Yes, they can share it with you. They can upload it to Google Classroom as well. But with this way, if they embed it into their site, that's going to then allow you to have everything right there, and also for the kid. Now, the first thing that has to happen, and you could do this many different ways. If a kid opens a Google site, you're going to want them to share that Google site with you. Now, that might be a little daunting if you have 120 kids to have to do 120 sites. So that's one of the negative parts of it. But if you're talking about a class that's doing assessments of 20, 25, it's a little bit more manageable if they do share it with you. Plus, all the sites that you have that are shared will all be listed on this page here. So you'll know, and it'll have the kid's name, so you'll know which one to go to if you have to. So what the kids probably will do is that they share it with you. And to keep their work private, they don't have to publish it so anybody can see it. They can just keep it as it is, not published. And if you're shared with it, then you can go in and view what you have to view. If you're thinking of different things, like possibly putting this out publicly so things could be shared among classmates and schools, that's totally different. But for right now, if you're looking at it as a place for the kids to store their assessments and for you to have the right to look at those assessments. That's what this thing is, what we're going to be talking about mostly today. So if you have students who shared it with you and it's not public knowledge, it's not out there, you can go in, look at their work that they've done, and given the fact that it's shared with you, you can leave remarks. So if a student did something in there, so let's go to a student page. And if they did some work here and say this was one of their research papers that they had, you can always just insert a text box saying good job. Then take this and put it right here. And if you want to put your name next to it, or you want to do it in maybe a bigger font and bold it so they know it's from the teacher, that's something you can have as well. So in here, and the nice thing again is it's only you and that person doing it. Now, if you have a group of kids doing it, so say you have, 120 kids, like we mentioned earlier. If you wanted kids to pair up where only maybe there are 4 kids on each page doing certain things, that's something you can do to limit the number of sites you would have. But there are a lot of different things you could do with this. We'll stick now with just the one-on-one. So now you have all this set up. And for the project-based learning, and you can check out and see the slides they did and everything else. So if the student wanted to go in and actually add a slide, so we'll just get one here that we have. Let's go with this one here. No, this one. So I embedded the slide in there. So now you have access to watch this Google slide to make sure they did all the things that they're supposed to go through it. And then at the bottom of here, you can add another text box in to basically tell the kid, nice job, do this, do that, and maybe make a comment for how he did and what maybe he could work on at another time. So that's one way of doing it. If you want to get more into pictures, if you really liked it, if you want to just add an image that you have to that page, you can go in, and if you really liked it, you can go in, just get an emoji, throw it in there, take it, drag it up, attach it to it, boom. Might not want that big of an emoji, but you're going to have to consider the size of the slide. Maybe make that a little bit smaller. And then take your Google Slides. Okay. So you can do it like that so they see it. And you can put down, teacher comment that you liked it. Just an idea how you grade. You have different ways of doing things, but just wanted to throw out a couple of ideas for that. Now, to give you some examples, say if you're having the students do portfolios. I had a teacher in Richfield Springs who I used to work with who presented on this last year at one of our expos about writing portfolios using Google Sites. And when you talk to the students who did it and the teacher, they just really liked it. And the students were really into it. And what she set up basically is a rubric for grading it. And she put it on a criteria of 4, 3, 2, and 1. From very visually appealing, work is easily accessed, reflection is thorough, down to no attempt, very little, so it kind of gives them a grading scale. Even to go down with a few more things with their take a break page, what they have, and their class reflection video as well. So, and then all these points added up at a 44 to get the grade for the portfolio. So, and to give you a couple of examples of some of the student ones, here's one of them. Okay, where her front page is all about her. Okay, the student can make this page about where they are, where they're from, what they do. Okay, then they get into the portfolio pieces where here they just embed their portfolio pieces. So the teacher can go in and just read them as needed. There's the take a break writing that she assigned. And then at the end, they did a video reflecting on what they did throughout the course, this course and this portfolio. So great project and very successful for something you can do starting at the beginning of the year, or something you can throw at kids if you're still remote by the time June comes around, possibly something you can use for an assignment. And you can do this for any topic. It really doesn't have to be ELA. It could be any topic out there, from social studies, science, math, business especially as well. Classes can do it. So if you're talking about doing a unit in social studies, it could be on the Cold War, where you give each one assignment. We talked about that already in the first Google Sites webinar. If you're, Earth Science, you can do whatever you're talking about there. Now, some teachers even can use this as a research paper. Granted, traditional research papers are still good, but to be able to add that extra layer to a research paper just gives it a little bit more, it makes it a little bit more them. If they can add graphs and pictures and design it, they're still doing the same research. It's just going in a little differently and it's looking a little differently. What some teachers also do is they take this, they have them write their traditional research paper and then add the site to it to present it. So all the work's been done, and now they're presenting it to a website. And it's definitely something that could help them down the road when they have to do stuff for a job and present. So just a couple of things that could help them there as well. Now, one thing, when you do a website for a research paper, it's basically what they characterize as a creative activity. A website, what it does, it demonstrates a mixed media literacy. It demonstrates a clear, fluent, and strategic communication. And it also delivers a message to a wide audience and opens the door for peer review and or interactivity. So if a student is doing a website, it allows people to go on and, give a review of it. Hey, this is great. I like what you did here. Hey, maybe you could have done something differently here if you had a chance. So it's great to get people more involved instead of, if you were to give somebody a 25-page paper, research paper, they're probably not going to read it. But if you throw in a website with 5-6 pages that has almost everything in there, or pretty much almost everything in there that you did in your paper, they're more than likely going to read it and probably will get more out of it that way. So that's one possibility of how to use Google Sites as an assessment tool. The second way of using Google Sites, or another way I should say, is one of the things a lot of teachers like is Flipgrid. And Flipgrid is a multimedia app that students can post videos and to talk about what they just did and how they got to a certain problem, or even just how they're doing. And they post it as Flipgrid, for the teacher to see and other students as well. On Google Sites, you can basically do the same thing. If the kid has a camera or a phone, he records his answers or whatever whatever you gave him that day. He saves it to his drive, and then he just embeds the video on his website. So if they wanted to put, let's see if I got a video here that I can use. I'll use that one. Let's see if we can use this award show. No, I'll use a B-roll for this. So if I throw this video in, it's now on here. The kid gives it a little definition with some text. Takes a text box and he puts that in right next to it. Let me grab that. There we go. and he can do the text on right here, basically explaining what he just did. And here's a video that you can see. And if you keep it locked down where it's just the two of you and it's not published, then it's, you're the only one who is seeing that and able to give them a grade. If you want to do something a little differently, where you want to be more like where everybody can see everybody's, then you can think about probably posting, having kids make the video, sharing it through their drive, and then you can post them on a certain page. I do have one page where we have a bunch of videos that we've done on project-based learning, and these videos are just posted in here. Anybody can go in and see them. If you do have interest in using any of these videos or looking at these videos, these came out a few months ago. A lot of them deal with Google and some of the things you can use, but it does have all the different project-based learning, the 8 goals that they have with that. So you can definitely get some use out of this. If you have interest in the site, let me know and I can send you the link to it so you can watch that. So by adding videos to this, you still kind of get that same Flipgrid thing. And if your district's not, if you can't use it in your district, this is an alternative. This is the reason I really kind of came up with this idea of using Google Sites as an assessment tool, because I've talked to teachers who said, oh, we can't use this or we can't use that. So I thought, maybe this is a place where you can use it now. One thing I know with Flipgrid is you can add the little emojis, but again, you can do the same thing if you have emojis on your computer. You just take the picture of them, add it next to it, give your comments, and you can go on from there. So you can do this for each student. You can do it if they're all published, put them on your site so the kids can see other kids' videos as well. Really, the choice is up to yours. I'm just showing you some ways that you can use Google Sites to post videos. Now, if a kid has his video on YouTube, obviously it's going out there and people are seeing it, but you can also embed the link that they have for that YouTube page just by clearly clicking on right here and putting in the YouTube link, and it will find the video the student did. If you want to teach more through videos, there's another way you can use Google Sites. Yes, you can also do this by just sending them the video, by posting it in Classroom. But again, just giving you alternatives, maybe mixing it up a little bit if the kids get too much on Google Classroom. Maybe this is something different that kind of balances it a little bit. You can throw a video in here, have them watch it, and even with the video here, you can get rid of this and throw in a Google form. So here's the video. Here's the form. Obviously, that's way too big of a form. So we want to close it down a little bit. We want to take it and put it right here. And then there's your Google form right next to your video. If you're like me, everything has to be even. And then you show it like this. So here's the video. They answer the questions right from the video. So that's another way. And that kind of gets into our next thing of the last way is just using Google Forms in here. You can do that by sending them a link, putting it in Google Classroom, but it is an alternative. And if it's not live and you give a kid a Google form and only the two of you can see it, you might give him different questions than somebody else from the other people in your class, or you rearrange the questions a little bit differently, or you select the option of having the questions come in differently. So if he texts his buddy saying, hey, what are the answers? And the guy gives them A, or C and D, could be different on the one you gave him. But again, not foolproof, and it's still basically the same situation you're in before. It's just another place to have it located And the student can always go back to his website and see those forms as well. So those are a couple of different ways in which you can use Google Sites as an assessment tool. By having students build a website, I mean, that right in itself could be used as for a grade or as an assessment. They can set up pages in their website of different assignments. So if it's history and they do a Cold War page, and you can count that, and then you do, okay, the next page underneath that is going to be the 60s. Then you're going to have a page on the 70s. So they would basically go in, if they're a student, and as we showed you earlier, here's their classes, and then they go to math, and this page could now be their Cold War page. This page could be their 60s page, where they're putting information, just showing that they are learning it. And when they're done with it, then you share it with the class, and kids can get an idea of, maybe next time they know what to do more of, or what they can work on later, or they can just learn from going to the site itself. For videos, same thing. Yes, you can give them videos anywhere else, but it's just another option, a place to put information that might be a little different and actually a little more colorful if you make your site. If you're going from your teacher site and you're putting videos on there for your students from your particular site, they'll see it a little more color, a little added more view to it than a Google Classroom page, and maybe they might like it and want, it's just a different change for them. And finally, with the forms, as we mentioned, they're easily embedded into this as well. So while there are other assessment tools to use, this is just another option for you if you're looking for something a little bit different. This is a great project when you're in school with kids at the start of the year. It could be used as an end of a unit for reinforcement if they build this. Some teachers can use this as, here's your assignment, your job is to get this, then to share all the sites which have all the notes for your particular unit you're doing, and the kids will learn based on what other kids have put in there. So you have a lot of different choices you can use. Remotely, how you can use this, give them if you're giving them an assignment, or if you're doing a book, they can write their responses in here. You know where to look for them, and they will be organized for the next few weeks that you're doing remote learning, or longer than that. And again, same thing with videos. If you're assigning them, if you want them, they can even do videos using, if they use Jamboard or some kind of whiteboard app that they can, for math, show the work that they're doing at the time that they're doing it. So a lot of different ways you could use this. If you have any questions, please just send me an email, and I'll get back to you with any suggestions or ideas that I might have, or if you have some ideas and would love to share. I would love to hear from you if you can share this with me. But again, you don't have to publish these sites. Even if you do publish it, you can keep it in your own domain. Now, the only issue if you publish it in the own domain is other students can look at it if that's what you're trying to avoid. So you just never publish it, and the kid just shares it with you. Now you're the only two people that can view it and write on it. So a lot of different choices, a lot of different things to do. Again, it's not perfect and complete for assessments, but it is another option, and it does give you some choices, and like I mentioned, it gives you options to do things a little bit differently. So I wanted to share that with you. Again, my name is Carl Manganero. If you have any questions, please send me an email at cmanganero@moric.org. Thank you very much.
Alrighty, thank you, Carl. We're gonna hang out here for a few minutes, so if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. Also, be on the lookout next week for our updated webinars and the offerings that we're putting out there next week. As always, if you didn't say hi in the beginning, say hi now to be sure we get you in attendance. And we hope everybody has a good remainder of the week.